everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today, our guest is Jason, and he is the founder of Werdland. Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. Been in this industry now. I've been in IT for 30 years. I've been in the MSP industry for 25 years. And with that, obviously, I have ran through the gauntlet. So Wordland is very special because I was able to take all of those years of experience and turn that into a strategic advisory firm. So now with Wordland, I'm able to help MSPs, but then I am also partnered with an MSP as well. I'm the COO over there. And the name of that MSP is Acrivos IT, and they're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you see a lot of, the founders in the MSP space. They come from, 20 years of experience on the IT side, and they start their own MSP. With you, you said, I can take all this experience and I can just help dozens of MSPs, a little different route. I'm under kind of that same umbrella. Can you tell us a little about, how you guys are currently growing right now, and what are kind of your plans here in 2026 for both companies?
Sure. I'll start with the Wordland side. Wordland was interesting because Wordland was actually my first MSP, and I started that in my 20s. It was very, very small. But it did grow to a point to where I was going to have to hire an employee. And I was in my 20s. I got a little scared. So I didn't want to be a CEO or anything like that. I kind of gave all of that up, and I just did the corporate thing for years and years. When the opportunities kept arising though on the side for me to help out other MSPs, that is when Wordland kind of took shape. Recently, it started in 2025. It took shape into the strategic advisory firm. From the Acrivos side, the owner there, Yakir, via Wordland. So he actually was a client of mine, and we just hit it off really, really well. Our visions aligned. He is a wonderful person to work with. So we're actually working through, some partnership stuff now. But again, with the vision aligning, he has a pure focus on a customer experience. So,
Mhm.
with that, and me starting over there, Acrovos is growing by leaps and bounds. We're signing on clients, it feels like every other week.
Nice.
So Acrovos's trajectory has been amazing. Now on the Wordland side, it's been a little bit different because, obviously starting a new company, you have to get exposure, you have to get out there. Now, luckily I've been in this game for a while. I know a lot of folks. I have some amazing folks around me who have been helping me.
Mhm.
So because of that, I've been introduced to a lot of the right people with the strategic advisory. So through
Mhm.
that, I've actually been able to help not only MSPs, but internal IT teams as well. So with that, it's a great alchemy, because I get the MSP side and I'll always have that experience, right? But then on the Wordland side, I'm still in touch with that MSP side. So it
Mhm.
just helped, right? As far as growth goes, though, again, Wordland's been so interesting because I haven't done any marketing. I haven't really done anything. I just kind of announced it on LinkedIn. And ever since then, it's just word of mouth and things have been moving and coming in. And it has been a very, very happy experience. I am literally living my best life at the moment and I'm enjoying every minute.
Yeah, you sound like it. And I love that kind of both of them, they feed into each other.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's just a beautiful combination that you're having that is, really succeeding, as you said yourself. Now, the growth when it comes to Acrivos, right? If I
Yeah.
pronounced it right. You're saying you guys are signing on a new client every week. You don't typically see that
Now,
with an MSP. Tell us a little bit about your client acquisition and how you guys are succeeding so much in something that a lot of MSPs struggle with.
sure. So I would have to chalk that up to Yakir's network. That has actually been paramount. So, obviously before I joined, Activos was smaller. Yakir was running everything. He needed expertise with operations to kind of come in to be able to handle all of that stuff so that he can focus on those sales. So one of the first things that we did, when I started over there was, we kind of just broke it out and we said, hey, I am going to handle like inside the house, right? And Yakir is going to bring everything in it, right? So with that, Yakir just developed this motivation about him that has just been getting him out there every single day. And he's been setting up the meetings. And it's amazing too, because we feel like as soon as the meeting gets set, that's all we need. We just have to get in the door. And, not to talk ill of anybody else, because I never would, because I genuinely feel that everybody just has a different way of doing things. And it's
Mhm.
not necessarily right or wrong. It's just the way that right? So what I've been noticing is, in the client acquisitions that have been happening, we're running up against, just a lot of folks who were an engineer
Mhm.
and they thought that they could open an MSP,
Mhm.
right? And, it's a trend that I've been seeing for years, and people just don't really understand. MSP is a tough life, like this is like industry in any way, shape, or form. It takes fortitude, it takes guts. You have to be okay with risk. So not everybody is built for it. And I think what we're really starting to see is um some maturity in that space, in that realization of understanding that, hey, this is not as easy as it looks.
Mhm.
Just the administrative functions alone, right? Like it's a full-time job almost. If, you know, adding onto that with the tech and the account management and everything else, like, right? It's the beast. So I think that we've had a lot of luck in the sense that Yakir's network is huge. He knows a lot of folks. And, with Acrivos doing a rebranding last month, we've been pumping stuff out there. People have been noticing us and seeing us. The phone is ringing and
Mhm.
people are reaching out. And again, we're seeing a lot of the same thing. They started out with like a one man shop or a mom and pop. And the needs of the business just simply outgrow what that provider can actually do.
Mhm.
So we've had a lot of luck in that space, just kind of pulling people out of some messy situations and
Mhm.
helping them out. And it's been very, very good, but now, I think our sites are set, more on some co-managed engagements, some higher security engagements. We really like to do the custom dev as well, so yeah, yeah, things are shaping up.
For maybe, you know what I mean, to kind of go back to what you were saying, the engineers, those really technical guys that are like, you know what, I can start MSP. I feel like that's kind of like a tale as old as time now, right? They go in this, they start an MSP and then they just lack, because MSP is a business. You got to have some type of knowledge about, marketing and sales and networking and stuff like that. So those guys get overwhelmed and stressed, even though they're so good on the technical aspect of things. For those guys, what advice would you give them about growth and proper client acquisition to get those guys up and going and running, their
Yeah,
MSP
sure.
and reaching their goals?
Sure, sure. So, and I've had so many, not debates, I guess more lectures on this, right? So my view is this. Anytime that I go in to help somebody, right? It's usually on either the operations end or their tech ops or their tool sets or whatever, right? What I always find is the cutting of the corners, and it's like death by a thousand cuts, right? So people will start out and maybe they'll get like a platform or something, right? Or maybe they'll get a security platform, and they'll go in and they'll tool it and they'll get it up to the point to where they can use it, right? The problem with that though is that they're working for the tool. The tool is not working for them. So my viewpoint on this really has always been build it right the first time and do it holistically. Because
Mhm.
what that is going to do is that is going to allow you to benefit from the efficiency features, which are the things that you see at the very end, right? So I'll actually use an example. Wise PSA, beast of a system, one of the most popular ones out there now. Tons of people use it. Every time that I go in for a consulting session, people are using 10% of the power. And the issue is that they're stopping right before they get to the automation part. They're stopping right before they get to the RPA part. They're stopping before they get to the hyper automation part, right? So what they're doing is they're actually enforcing that they are going to have to bring in more staff. they're going to need more skill set. There's going to be more administrative work, right? But if they just sat there and thought about it for a little while longer and planned it a little farther ahead, right? And
Hmm.
implemented whatever the solution is holistically, then they're now reaping the benefits of those features from day one. The other issue too is that when they get to that point to where they realize, hey, I have to go back and I have to go fix this stuff, it's costing them 150 to $250,000 of labor to go
Mm.
back now because as it grows, it gets more complex. So you're just piling trash on top of trash, right? So to go back and unravel that is it is insanely costly. So just do it right from the beginning. If you do it right from the beginning, you'll be happy from the beginning.
And then now, from these past few weeks of just this immense growth, what specifically maybe changed in your experience about how good client acquisition looks like from when you used to do it in the past?
Yeah, sure, sure. So look, there are good clients and there are not so good clients, right? And it's hard, it's hard in the beginning to really understand that. I mean, you have to find your groove and your vibe and you have to understand who you work well with and what technologies you can support natively and all of that fun stuff, right? I think being able to identify in the assessment period and in the discovery period what a good client really is going to serve you so much more. I completely understand that in the beginning it's a grab, right? Like you have to get every cent that you possibly can. You're a startup. You have to get the money in. Like that's a given. At the same time though, I think that there's a way where, even if it's not the best client out there, there's still a there's still a way to set expectations properly. And I think that's part of the reason why so many MSPs fail too, right? They're afraid to have a hard conversation with a prospect to set
Hmm.
the proper expectations,
Yeah.
right? Now, I know that if a client tells me that they need something that I have no interest in doing, I'm going to tell them that. The issue though is that some people will just yes them to death. They'll tell them everything that they want to hear and they'll say yes. The problem though is that you're going to lose that contract in 3 to 4 months, right?
Hmm.
So if you're just upfront and honest from the beginning and you take an authoritative stance and position yourself as a subject matter expert, they'll listen. And getting them to listen is the most important thing because they're hiring you for a reason. They're hiring you for your experience and your knowledge. So give them your experience and your knowledge and tell them what will work and what won't work. They don't want to be asked a question. They want to be told what to do because that's what they're paying you for. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think, yeah, at the beginning, you might say a little bit more yeses because it's not a business without the money coming in. But
Yeah, yeah.
as you go on, qualification is really key, especially for all businesses. You don't want bad clients with high, what I mean, where your churn rates are super high.
Yeah,
That doesn't do you any good, right?
agreed.
Speaking more about Wordland of itself, what has been the challenges in client acquisition and growing that? Is it more kind of the focus is on the newer company there, or what are kind of like those bottlenecks over there on that side of things?
Yeah, so honestly, the only bottleneck really has been my time, right? So, I mean, I've had some decent deals that have come through that I probably could have taken on if
Hmm.
I wanted to work a 90-hour week, right? But, I'm a little older now, I don't need to do that anymore, So I've certainly passed on some things, that probably would have been great, but the family life balance to me is very, very important. Now, with that though, you know, Wordlin is now getting to a point as well where I finally have some folks that I can lean on. I have some amazing systems engineers who can help me do some of the nuts and bolts stuff and build out systems and stuff like that. So that's actually helping me get to a place to where I'm kind of in this like pure executive mode,
Hmm.
and it's helping me stick with the strategic advisory, right? Not that I don't love the nuts and bolts. Believe me, there is nothing better than, pulling an all-nighter on a Thursday and ripping down a server and implementing 365 or something like that. I love that stuff. I am an engineer at heart, and I always will be. But, again, I'm getting older, man.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
it's time.
I believe it. You
So
got 20 years in it, right? So
yeah,
you gotta love
right,
it.
right. So it's just it's getting to the point, right, where it's like I love what I have with Acrivos. I'm sure that I'm gonna do other things with other MSPs as well, right? But with Wordland, it's almost like running itself now. The word of mouth is working. Leads are coming in. I'm having the conversations. I'm not marketing at all. And I mean, sir, when I tell you, I like put some LinkedIn stuff out. That's it. I mean, like, that's it. I don't do any of that. So, the stuff just seems to be rolling in, and I'm very happy with that. Now, look, at the same time, I'm not looking at Wordland to become like a $1 billion thing either. Like
Mhm.
I'm not I'm not the type of guy where, I'm looking for like fame and fortune and all of that stuff. I want to retire in a small house on a lake with my wife with a dock and go fishing. That's it.
Mhm.
Right. I'm not in this, to get rich or anything like that. I
Mhm.
I I gotta be honest, and I get called out on this a lot, but I don't care. I am 100% in this for the passion. I love this industry. I love helping people. So if Wordland grows, great. If it doesn't, oh well, you know. It's just one of those things where I'm not worried about the growth. I'm more worried about how many people I can get out there and help.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Some people do it for the passion. That's why you see some people, working as old as 70 and 80. You know what I mean? They're not really doing it for the money necessarily because they don't have a bunch of time left, but they do it
Yeah,
because they love it.
exactly.
Let's kind of address the elephant in the room, AI. Is AI playing any role in how you guys operate today?
My goodness, man, you have no idea. AI is in everything, everything. I'm going to give you a perfect example. The other day, we're sitting there and we're spinning up a sales module in ConnectWise PSA. Well, we look at the sales module and Yakir says, this is too slow for me. Yakir goes right into Claude and literally makes an app in an hour that allows him to he can speak into this thing. He can take a picture. He can do whatever, fills out everything on the PSA side. So he can now do all of that from an app on his phone. Great. Great. Right. That's like a small example. Right. But that's also an example of how powerful and how far that it's come in the
Mhm.
fact that you see something that you don't like. You're not going to put a feature request in because you're not going to wait for that. You're just going to build it yourself.
Mhm.
And that to me is like the apex of everything. Currently, right now, I could buy a CSAT system. I could buy a scheduling tool. I could
Mhm.
buy a client portal. I could buy all of that stuff. No, we're going to build that in house.
Mhm.
We're going to use Lovable. We're going to use Claude,
Claude.
or something like that. And we're going to build it ourselves because I own it. I don't have to pay anybody for it. Right. And it's
Yeah.
there. And I'll know exactly how it works and I can fix it if it breaks. Right. So on an internal side, I think AI isn't even the future. AI is the now, I mean, like people are doing this stuff every single day. A buddy of mine in Pennsylvania just wrote an app to track warranties on assets and he made it in his spare time. He might retire off of that thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it is the most amazing time to
Yeah.
be in this industry because of that. Right now, on the external side, AI's implementations and implications are boundless.
Mhm.
One of the things that I'm working on right now, I've had this vision for a while, is I want clients, customers to be able to click a button in their system tray, tell an AI agent what's wrong, and that AI agent is going to fix it. But not like a chat, an actual conversation that feels like a real, like human. Now, let's also be real. AI is not a human, right? So I definitely think that there's going to be, kind of almost like a tier of service that's going to get you a human, right? I think that that is coming sooner than later, right? You know, but in terms of ease of use, being able to get our clientele what they want, when they want it, how they want it, in the way that they want it, in the format, right?
Mhm.
I just think is absolutely amazing, you know, and in all reality, I think that we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet.
No,
We're just starting.
no, I 100% agree. And I think that's honestly what's gonna really set you guys apart from other companies is you guys, your founder over there, he seems like he's very competent. If he's able to
Right on.
build something using, Claude code. Claude code is just literally a game changer. You can create different user interfaces, apps, everything, and cater it to your exact need, with precision and accuracy. So Claude, I've been using a lot, and I've seen literally just so much return on investment from the money that I've spent using it. So
So much fun.
I love that you guys are using that as well as we are just at the tip of the iceberg. And I think that, you know what I mean, to the companies that are very slow to adapting or even using AI, I think that they're going to go with the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Now, looking ahead with your kind of top priorities, right? Quarter one's almost done of the year, and it's already just like that, with the snap of the fingers. What's the goal for the next 9 months, both for both companies?
Yeah, sure, man. So, well, it's easy on the Wordland side. I want four more strategic advisory long-term gigs, you know, and that'll pretty much round out my entire year, and then I'll be nice and full, and all will be well. And those are actually in the pipeline now, so I'm happy about that. On the Acrivos side, we are just pounding, man. We are grinding. You know, we are bringing folks in. I think our big thing over the next probably 6 months is going to be RPA. We're heavily investing our time and labor into setting up pretty much what I just said. You know, that client facing, you know, being able to interact with it, not like a chat bot, you know, but just more as like a human. You know, that is definitely in the forefront right now. You know, we're actually working on the back end systems to get all of that working. So that's probably going to be like our big highlight of the year. Other than that, though, we're really just trying to stay focused on sales. You know, we want to bring up sales to a point to where, you know, Yakir and I can focus more on vision
Mhm.
and more on strategic execution, right? You know, and, you know, just filling up the seats, you know, with engineers and account managers and all of that fun stuff. You know, at the same time, though, leveraging our AI and our capabilities and our platforms there, you know, so that, you know, we can hopefully keep our level one engineering pool small, because generally I like to bring in level two and level three engineers only, because the way that I see it, when they see a problem, they don't want to deal with it again. So they'll root cause fix that problem then and there. Right. You know, so that's our main, you know, plan, right? But yeah, sales and hyper automation paired with AI.
Now, with the benefit of hindsight from when you first started, what's maybe one sort of belief you had or one decision that if you could do it over again, you would change? If that's a belief, a decision, anything like that from years ago.
Wow, that's a good question, man. That's a really good question. You know, I have a few, but the one that stands out the most to me is the client perception, and I'll explain. I used to, you know, especially in my younger, more arrogant and egotistical days when I thought I knew everything. I used to think that, you know, like whatever was there was fact, right? So I'll use an example, you know, like a client gets upset about something, right? And I might look at it from my point of view and I might say, well, we did everything right. You know, this client has no reason to be upset. You know, it took a lot of pain to realize that at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the client perception, period. The way that the client perceives you and the way that you present yourself will literally make or break a relationship. And I think that people forget this, especially engineers who become owners, because, you know, and I am one myself, right? But, you know, they kind of tend to look at everything through an engineering lens, right? And you just can't do that. You know, like when you're in a leadership role, even in an engineering role, right? You have to understand that what the client sees, what the client hears, and what the client feels at the end of the day That is what is keeping them paying for their service. It
Mhm.
is not about the reports that you pull up trying to prove that you were right or blaming this vendor or blaming that vendor or what. It doesn't matter. The client doesn't care. They just want their stuff to run. So, managing the client perception to me is one of the most important things that you have to do at an MSP. Your systems are not as important as that. Nothing is as important as that. Maybe your payroll, right? Yeah, sure. Right. But, at the end of it all, the client perception is what keeps you in business. So manage it properly.
Now, Jason, if the guests want to hear more about you or see exactly what you guys are up to over there, where can they find you?
Yeah, sure, man. So we are on LinkedIn. You can look up Wordland. You can look up Acrivos IT. You can go to wordland.com or you can go to acrivosit.com. Acrivos is spelled Acrivos. Wordland is spelled with an E, Uerdland.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Jason, I really appreciate you hopping on. I think this one was a really good call here that we had today, and you have a lot of great things to say that a
That
lot
was
of
fun, dude.
MSPs can take from and be like, you know what, I'm gonna implement this, or maybe I'm gonna go try to contact Wordland, and hopefully maybe they can help me with.
Yeah, sure. Great.
All
Awesome.
right, Jason.
Awesome.
Yep. See you guys in the next episode.
Thank you.